So I've always came from a place of authenticity when it comes from how to develop my voice. The irony of how to develop my voice, if you're talking about physically, here's a top tip. If you're going to be a speaker in any way, shape, or form, meaning just speaking to your sales organizations, you're doing hundreds of calls, please get a voice coach. Number one, my children is a love that I think if you're not a parent, it's hard to describe. I don't think you'll ever love unconditionally except with your kids. My purpose is to educate, mentor, develop millions of people through all forms of writing, education, and even speaking. So any one of those platforms, millions of people, as long as I can touch them and impact them through either writing or speaking or maybe mentorship, that's what I want to be able to do. And if I'm inside my purpose, it's creating a ripple effect. There's impact there. It's not like there's two people. It's 10, 50, 1,000 and beyond. It brings revenue and it brings joy. So all three of those things.
Welcome to the Top Real Estate Influencers podcast with your hosts, Mario Hurley and Alex Montalenti. Today we have Nick Sarnicola. Nick is based out of Miami. Nick is a great friend. Nick is an investor in our company. Nick is somebody that's a visionary, a generous human being, somebody that, I'm inspired to watch what he's up to all the time and the way he is with his family, the way he is in his business, the way his people, his team look up to him. I've been privileged to be at his house. I've been privileged to go to events that he's invited me to, and I'm excited to have him here on the podcast today. So let's get it rocking.
Let's do it. I'm excited.
Yeah, well, definitely welcome, Nick. And your reputation precedes you. I checked you out online, and definitely you're somebody that I would like to follow, learn from. I feel a lot of energy when you speak in some of your videos that I saw on Instagram. So I'd like to start off asking you, how did you develop your voice?
So I've always came from a place of authenticity when it comes from, how to develop my voice. And the irony of how to develop my voice, if you're talking about physically, here's a top tip. If you're going to be a speaker in any way, shape, or form, meaning just speaking to your sales organizations, you're doing hundreds of calls, please get a voice coach. I have absolutely thrashed my actual voice. So that's an on topic, off topic. My actual voice has been thrashed. But developing my voice was, a byproduct of, my environment of where I was born and raised, except I took the opposite stance of my upbringing. My upbringing was blue collar, middle class. You can't have that. You can't have that. You can't have that. What my parents were really saying is we can't afford it. But, they don't say that to a 6-year-old because they don't want to admit that to themselves. They just say, oh, you can't have that. Well, why? Because I said so. So I developed really early on an interesting thought process because my parents never fought except one thing. They fought about money. And I knew at like 9 years old, I'm gonna be rich one day. And I'm like, all right, I can't sing, can't dance, can't rhyme, can't act, not gonna do anything illegal. What's left? Sports. Played college baseball, but got introduced to entrepreneurship while playing college baseball. And all of a sudden the light bulb went on, and all of that, grit and middle-class mentality and just hardcore work ethic and family values then transitioned to, let me go put that all into entrepreneurship and building something and running my ass off nonstop. So I think it starts with that environment, but not wanting to end up where everyone else ended up.
Wow. So you cannot sing a Frank Sinatra song for us?
I cannot sing. I can't sing anything anymore. So
I love it that it comes from the inside. It comes from that profound desire to achieve. And it sounds like you have a very, very strong work ethic.
Yeah. When you just said, when I referenced middle-class values, middle class is truth. Everything's a handshake. Like there's no contracts where I'm from. It's like, you gave a handshake and you did what you said you're going to do. And that's what you watched your uncles do and your dad do and your friends' parents do. And that's the type of business, that I enjoy and the type of people that I enjoy. And that's the voice that came with. But then I learned, like I said, wealth principles and, compounded growth and, how to compress time and taking those two ideas and combining them together are what kind of, created the voice that you hear today, which is, I think, a keen ability to connect with the middle class, because it's what I identify with. But still, my goal to pull them out, right? To take people out of mediocrity, to become, much greater in success in the way they think and their relationships, etc.
Wow. So if I may, I'd like to go a bit deeper. Okay, nice. Because you talked about uncles, mom and dad. I know you're a dad. So tell us, family, what is family for you?
I'm going to give two answers to this. Number one, my children is a love that I think if you're not a parent, it's hard to describe, because I don't think you'll ever love unconditionally except with your kids. Maybe when they're 20, if they're acting a fool and doing illegal stuff or something like that, you might put some conditions there. But when your children are children, like, the level of love you feel is so unconditional, and it's different than what you will feel for your spouse or your significant other. I don't care what anybody says, because you are married based on a set of conditions, right? You're with your significant other based on a set of conditions. That doesn't apply when you have kids, right?
Yeah.
So that love that you feel for your children is very different. Now, if you're to take that out to outer circle, this is where my perspective is can be very contrary to some people. A lot of people live by the quote, blood is thicker than water, or whatever that the quote is.
Yeah.
And I've always had the mentality of, if I align with these humans and we align in values and desires and the things we want to do, and we get along great and we love each other, that is as much as my brother as the one that has the same bloodline, right?
Yeah.
And in many cases more than, right? In many cases more than. So, I don't have this thing where I'm like, this is family that's a part of a lineage and that's friends or that's my bro. No. My family is the people that are the closest to me, that have the largest impact on my life in any given moment. And those family members, by the way, they might be transitionary, right? I might have this best friend, brother, twin for 3, 4, 5 years, and then we might not even talk for 5 years. In fact, that's happened with my brother, best friend and business partner of 15 years. We haven't spoken in 4 or 5 years.
Wow. Do you actually have a big family though?
I don't. I've got my parents, and I've got 3 brothers and a handful of cousins. None of the cousins talk. None of the cousins are integrated. We're all kind of spread out all throughout the country. I got one brother in Michigan, one in North Florida, I'm in South Florida, one in Colorado. It's all, it's all super spread out. And it's also important point is my thinking is so dramatically different than everyone else in my family. My entire family is blue collar middle class, with a handful that have made it to white collar upper middle class.
Yeah.
So we don't think like different, we think the opposite. And therefore it's, I'm not filling my calendar with those experiences because it doesn't bring a significant amount of joy, because there's always conflict based in that, even if that conflict is just me sitting there listening, going, I can't believe I'm listening to this.
Wow.
So yeah.
I don't know, but it seems to me nowadays the definition of family definitely has to become expanded, upgraded.
Yeah.
Because I'm same way. I actually was adopted, and as much as I am grateful to the parents that brought me here to the country of opportunity, I am not close to them, and it's because we just don't have the same mindset. And as much as I would like them to be with me on this, they're not. And as much as they want me to be in their mindset, I'm not. I can have a whole day conversation with Alex and we're good. This is great. Whereas I cannot have the same with my mom, for example.
Full stop, understand. We're now brothers apparently, so, or cousins at least. So
I'm on the same page. It's like when I think of the holidays,
oof.
I thanks.
Bro,
I created, like a lot of people, we created this thing called Friendsgiving, right? And it's like, that's really what I look forward to. right? Like those are my peeps. Those are my people. I get together for Friendsgiving, and then I do Thanksgiving too. But Thanksgiving is like there's family members missing, there's conflict, there's drama, we're not on the same mindset. But it's like I want to bring my boy Mario to Thanksgiving and Friendsgiving.
The Friendsgiving is the one where you have the 1 or 2 glasses of wine. The Thanksgiving is where you're just like, this is going to drive me to drink like this. Well, shout out to any of our family members watching right now.
Yeah, I know, right?
There you go.
Invited. We're not invited to the next turkey.
Yeah.
Great. Let me go into another subject, more entrepreneurial, because this is definitely a podcast. We build it, and it's growing, and we're very grateful for people like yourself, because each one of our guests always have a very unique, very poignant message. And in your case, you're not strictly real estate. This is more like we've done a lot of real estate people. So I would like to know from you, like, what would be like your core message, not only for, like, forget the sexes, men or women, because nowadays, really, it's not about men or women. It's like they're both fighting, they're both qualified. It's a very competitive field where anyone, regardless of their preferences or regardless of their background, can achieve greatness. So what would be your core message for men and women?
Well, it's a super broad statement, so I could go a lot of directions with that. But one that hits me right now is this right here, right? So there's Ikigai and about staying in your purpose, and then this is, my personal purpose. And my personal purpose in people sometimes that don't have real sense of purpose, they find this to be cheesy. Because I remember when I used to find somebody's like, oh, I'm in my purpose. I'm like, oh, good for you. It can sound real cheesy. Yeah. And, my last business run and some, a lot of the years we were making a ton of money, but it wasn't bringing a ton of happiness. Right. So that meant something in the purpose model was off. And, for me, my circles are impact, joy, and results. Results meaning, the income result of that, or the revenue result, right? So I'll even replace that with revenue. So impact, revenue, joy. If it's not dead center in those three, I'm not touching it. Well, Nick, do you know you can short the stock and the thing and to do the crypto thing and round up the nearest hypothetical, divide by pi? I'm like, don't give a shit. Don't you know that currencies really don't care? And it's just because it doesn't hit my dead purpose. I can make money doing anything. You can make money doing anything. Do it inside your purpose. So that's like, you're always on. You're always like, you can't wait. You're always just excited about the next thing, conversation, dialogue, podcast, because you're inside your purpose. And that took me a long time to know what that was for me.
So what is your purpose?
My purpose is to educate, mentor, develop millions of people through all forms of writing, education, and even speaking. So any one of those platforms, millions of people, as long as I can touch them and impact them through either writing or speaking or maybe mentorship, that's what I want to be able to do. And if I'm inside my purpose, it's creating a ripple effect. There's impact there. It's not like there's two people, it's 10, 50, 1,000 and beyond. It brings revenue and it brings joy. So all three of those things.
Wow, so you're in the right room here, because this is what we're all about.
Yeah, we got the right guys.
So let me ask you a question. When you were in the zone, right? You built this multi-billion-dollar company, in revenue and 1,900 sales professionals, and you're out there speaking and inspiring and educating. Like, what can you share about that? Like, when you're in the zone of that, what is that like, and how did you get there?
Man, so how we got there was our company was going out of business. At the 2009 recession hit, and our sales went from 3 million a month to 600,000 a month. Ooh. And it's bad in 1 year. So we had to put all of our last money back in to keep it alive, but no one wanted high-end anti-aging products. We were in the wellness industry then, when they couldn't keep their light bill on. So we knew we had to pivot, and we came up with an idea of pivoting around meal replacement. and positioning it as, look, this is healthy fast food. It's cheaper than McDonald's, it's cheaper than Burger King. And it was a great idea. We figured out a model of how we could, how customers could bring us more customers, refer 3 years is free. That worked. But it was really wrapping that around, a tip of the arrow message that was so piercing that it went viral. Now, what I did is when I saw the creation of our old company, when our pivot was called, Body by Buy, the 90-day challenge. We were the founders of Challenge Marketing. We bought challenge.com. You get the idea. It was about now proving the model against all odds. My back was completely against the wall. My job was sales, expansion, development, all of those things. Operations was in place. Everything was in place. Like, Nick, this is all on your back. And back was completely against the wall, and it was sink or swim. So, and it was carrying the weight of all of the employees, partners, staff, but also the independent sales organization, which were my heart wide. And then the last thing is, we were actually in a 4-year buyout. That was the first year of a 4-year buyout where we dropped by 80%. So I saw a multiplier of every action that I took for 3 years that said, man, for everything I do the next 3 years, it's worth 8x on EBITDA. And, I took the company from 600,000 a month. 32 months later, we were doing 66 million a month. It was compounded double-digit growth for 32 straight months. It was insane. So the combination of we're about to lose it all, the pressure of that, the pressure that creating something new, sexy, beautiful, viral, a category king, blue ocean strategy, and then the compensation driver was there. There was a reason. Like, we could have all just said, screw it, let's walk and start something new. But we were already in an acquisition. So no matter how bad it was in that moment, I could see that was because of the recession. That wasn't because we sucked.
Yeah.
It was because, so how can we pivot? So all those things combined is a very long answer, not short.
No, that's more than I knew. So that was awesome.
No, but what I love about what you said is that you had two things that were clear. One, that it wasn't your products or your system that was lacking. It was you needed to redesign the same thing, and the salespeople needed to see that there's a real incentive there, so that they can put in all they got.
Myra, the irony of the whole thing is the product that became the number one in class that we ended up selling over $2 billion worth. 20% of the meal replacement shake market in America in 2012 was our shake. It was 18%. So 1 out of every 6 shakes was ours. And the irony of it is we already had that thing for years. We just didn't sell it. Nobody wanted it. But we repositioned it as the lead, and it was lights out. So the product was already there. The compensation plan to the team was already there. The same leadership was there. But the activation of me resigning as a chief sales officer and going into the field and saying, here, hold my beer, watch this, I'll sell it. Like, I'll go do this, I'll go build it. And then the actual creating a perfectly timed tip of the arrow marketing message that didn't exist at that time. All of those, and a lot of luck, a lot of preparation for that moment, but a lot of luck as well.
So your podcast that you invited me to speak on is Forged by Fire. So, I mean, is that what you're talking about? It's like, it's forged by fire, like you're up against a wall, and it's like, and that's when
100%.
really, okay.
Guess when that one goes live, by the way?
What's that?
It went live today. Your podcast.
Oh, really?
We did,
cool.
with 3 hours ago. So
that's awesome.
Forged by Fire is about not the glamorous shit. Like, everyone goes online and they hear the exciting stuff, and that's great. But I want to hear about the pain and the darkness, and when it was broken, and what you're made of at that moment, what you were thinking, how close you were to giving up. And also Forged by Fire it's supposed to be, I can't nail it every time, but somebody that had success, lost it, and is on their comeback or already came back. Because a lot of people can point to their childhood as the fire, right? They're forged by this really bad fire, by this really bad childhood. and then they become successful. Right. So this is a little bit different. I want you to be successful and then lose it and then come back again. That's Forged by Fire.
Nice.
But can you talk more about that? Because not everyone is able to do that. Most people, they're done, and then they disappear for 5-10 years, and they come up with something else somehow. Like I don't know, they came back to life. Here you just pivot. How did you do that?
Well, I'm gonna have to hear two questions in there. How did we do it in that moment, the pivot? We had no other choice. So the company that bought us, they were a publicly traded company, and they literally wrote us off as a bad investment. This is different than when your uncle writes you off at Thanksgiving dinner. This is a publicly traded company that said to the world, this is a bad investment. So can you please deduct them from our taxes? I didn't understand it at 27, but that's really embarrassing. I was like, whatever, let's keep, they don't know shit, So the back was so far against the wall. We did not have a choice. We were 1 month from out of business, 600,000 in sales, 600,000 in the bank, and we were losing 600,000 in cash every month. That's a 666 you don't want. So the other one you referenced, the other one you just referenced was sometimes people disappear for 4 or 5 years. I think some people could argue that of me from, when we just sold our company a few years ago, and I'm just now popping up again 3-4 years later, because I had to figure out what am I going to be when I grow up, because I just sold the company the second time and I was 40 years old, and now I'm almost 44.
Yeah. Wow.
So I think it's okay to have, months, or maybe there's years, but you have to have the capital to be able to do that, right? So we were successful enough that I could take 2 years to figure out who the hell am I now?
Write a book or something.
Yeah, maybe.
Are you able?
Maybe.
Are you in a place where you can share like what you're up to now?
Yeah. There's no one in the room. We're good. No, I was kidding.
No, just because I think it's related. It's related to the community that listens, right?
Yeah. Well, so I knew on my path, what was happening is I was working with first-time, part-time entrepreneurs, and the redundancy of that began to wear on me, because my growth was going like this because we built a multi-billion-dollar company. So it was by trial and error, or whatever word you want to use it. We built it, but it was inevitable that I was going to grow, but I was still dealing with that first-time, part-time entrepreneur, and I started growing, distance to that. So I knew in my heart I wanted to work with top performers. So I was like, one day I'm going to create a sales accelerator that works with only top performers, just the top 1%. I want the Navy SEALs. And we're going to pick industries, mid-cap companies. We're going to blow out their sales, negotiate equity. We'll exit when they exit. First industry we picked, solar. What did I learn in all my research? Customer acquisition model is broken. It's 70% door knockers who they're good kids, but they're just trained to run this script on this grandma, and all of a sudden she's in this loan that she shouldn't be in. And I meet a lot of real estate people that don't like solar because they don't like the person selling it, they don't like the liens, and they don't like the non-transferability. And what they don't know, because they haven't learned from anyone recently, because they don't like talking to the solar people, and I don't blame them. Is the entire lending industry's changed for solar. Every loan is transferable now of the top 5 lenders. There is no lien on houses anymore of the top 5 lenders. They completely ripped off the emergency brake, and it's flying. So what I noticed is the number one transaction that we were doing in solar was a referral from a real estate agent. And it's not even close. So much respect for all the real estate agents out there. You guys have spent so much time building your brand with Real Greater, as you should. Building your network, building your trust, building your clientele. And then here's some, idiot kid banging on the door. And Alex, some of these kids are like, yeah, you're a real estate agent. They just look it up on MLS. Yeah, your real estate agent, Steve, told me to come by and sell you solar, like just lying to people. So I'm creating a platform called Renewable Real Estate, where I'm going to onboard thousands of real estate agents that want to have a trustworthy group of sales professionals that are disconnected from the culture of solar, but are representing it in the right way. Because what the reality is, real estate agents don't have an issue with solar. They have an issue with solar salespeople. The technology is the wave of the future. That's like saying, I have an issue with toilets, but I'm going to sell you this house and put the toilet outside. Solar it's the law in California. So in 10, 15 years, it is life, right? It's not like options.
Yeah. And I think in a market like this, realtors are looking for like, where can I get an extra, 15, 20% revenue or more? And then they're looking at all these ancillary services, things that they can tack on or bring to their clients, or conversations that they haven't had with their old clients. Like, go back to your list of like the last 200 clients you did business with and talk to them about this amazing new opportunity with solar. I think there's a huge opportunity.
Yep. I think real estate agents need to get themselves in between the transaction. They should. Otherwise, if anything, just do it to protect your own client from what's going to happen next. But position yourself in between the transaction allows you to, to make a commission split, and you should make a commission. Get paid twice for doing work once. Makes sense to me.
Dude, this is what I love. I don't know if you know this, but Alex is a salesperson. And I just heard you're also a salesperson. I mean, I want to buy whatever you're selling right now. I'm not even in California. I'll buy it. I don't care. I mean, the passion and the distinction, and you know this, right? It's about having a very specific offer. It's not a common thing. Oh yeah, I've seen that. No, I'm good. Yours is very specific. It's a very unique placement, and it's genius. I'm sure you're gonna have a lot of people that are gonna contact you from listening to the podcast, and for future programs as well, because it's very unique, and I can feel the passion that is like so clear. This is what you were talking about earlier about that middle class grit. I mean, it's like my palms are sweating. Okay, so please, which leads me to my next question: who influenced you? Who'd you learn from? How did you become who you are?
That's a great question. So I believe we all have direct and indirect mentors, right? Obviously, direct mentors, ones that you're in communication with; indirect, ones that have absolutely just changed the trajectory of your life because you chose to study them, very intently. So the direct mentors would be the first people that introduced me to entrepreneurship. I had a couple of them, a handful of that company. The ones that just believed in me when I was 18. I had a guy that when I was 18, he had said, "Hey, Nick, I started entrepreneurship when I was 18. And by the time I was 21, I was a millionaire. You're the same kid. You're that kid." Meanwhile, I got my parents going, "He's trying to take advantage of you. He's trying to scam you." Like, well, I love you guys and I don't know him, but I can do math real quick. Y'all broke. He's not. So I'm going to take some advice. And it turned out he didn't want to scam me. He just wanted to mentor me. And it was great because there was enough belief there. And so I think for your listeners, I want to encourage them to be mentors, because if a lot of them are in real estate and they're full-time in real estate, there's an 18-year-old kid out there, or a 22-year-old kid, or there's the newest agent who's 24 who just got, into your organization. Believe in that kid, believe in that girl, pull them aside, tell them how much they can do it. Not just because you're their team leader, but, a 360-degree leadership. When we look back at our life, it's going to be about the ripple effect, period. It's just going to be about the ripple effect that we remember and all the things that we did that triggered other things to happen. So back on track, indirect mentors, which is more practical. I fell in love with Jim Rohn early on, John C. Maxwell early on, Napoleon Hill early on. And these are kind of the early on must-haves in your repertoire. And then I went on this crazy 10-year all-in leadership study. It was not intentional. I just fell in love with leadership. I started with how-to books like John C. Maxwell, 21 Laws of Leadership. So it was all how-to. And I was like, oh, I'm done with this. It became several years of this person. So let's say Roosevelt on leadership, MLK on leadership. So different world changers.
Yeah.
And then I started reading biographies of the entire life of a Teddy Roosevelt, of an MLK, of a Gandhi, of a Nelson Mandela, and I would even read ones that were that had a great impact and made had a huge following, even if they did it the wrong way. I read JFK's 500-page book, his biography, and then 600 pages on Che Guevara was the next month, just so I could see the contrast between the two.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'll stop there just because I don't want it to be a monologue. Sorry about that.
No, it's all good. I mean, that's brilliant. I myself, I love biographies. I love to go deep into like, where did this person make a decision? How were they raised? Did they go against the parents' training or with parents' support? That's gold.
Yep. And then direct mentors. I had Tony Robbins as a direct mentor for a while. Love Tony. Direct mentor of John C. Maxwell, became a direct mentor when I was 33 years old. So I love those guys as well. Right now, you know, I love Gary's stuff still. And I love Tony's stuff still. But who I really am into right now is Jordan Peterson. I think his message is so great for people. Like, people need to hear that are out there lost what that man has to say. And he's fearless. He's just fearless.
What is his core message?
What is Jordan's core message?
Yeah.
If I was to boil it down, I believe his core message is there's so much more inside of you that you know, that you understand, that you give yourself credit for. And, you know, what you think is the worst, you are capable of overcoming. You're capable of getting to the other side. He's very statistical. I'm a very pragmatic person, so I love reading case studies, or books that are based on case studies. So I love the fact that he's very statistical driven. He's a doctor, obviously, but I think his core message is he just believes so much in people that there's so much more potential inside of them, and I think he just wants to pull that out of them.
I have also studied him. He's pretty crazy. I know he's had a couple of issues where they're trying to take away his monetization on YouTube. And he shows up in many topics that are current in our life, even dating, which is where my next question goes for you, sir.
Okay. You have a date do you have someone you're going on a date with?
I don't know. We'll find out. So let's hear it. Talk to us about relationships, the romantic kind. What are your thoughts on this? What do you think is happening? Is it good? Is it not good? Is it working in society? Is it important? Does it matter?
All right. Today's day and age is very different, I think, than when my parents got married. And I think clearly access to other people digitally is probably the number one reason for it. There's an old saying, out of sight, out of mind, right? So now everything's in sight, which means everything's in sight, everything's in mind. So, you know, I don't know if it's, a lot of people are like, oh, it's absence of God and it's absence of religion, and that's why there's a 50% divorce rate. I'm like, I don't know. Maybe it was absent of technology for 2,000 years or 10,000 years. You know, you couldn't just like push a button. There's like, ooh, 1 billion potential people to choose from at the pick, you know? So I think technology is playing a very heavy role in the outcomes in relationships, period.
Okay.
I think you're going to see the world shift, if it hasn't already, towards shorter relationships that are, you know, very much in love, but they're going to be short bursts. Maybe this one's 10 years and this one's 20 years and that one's 15 years. And I think that's going to be more acceptable or accepted. I know there's probably a lot of people right now that are not happy with what I'm saying. But that's not to say there's not going to be a huge percentage of people that are going to be together forever. There will be, right? There will be. But what I am saying, I think it's going to become more accepted. It has to be. Half the population in America right now has that story, right? And then there are humans. I think of there's this couple, Tom and Deb McCoy. By the way, my parents are celebrating their 50th. My grandparents were married for 78 years. 78, 20, 21. 76 years.
Wow.
So yeah, crazy, right?
Yes.
So it's not like, oh, this kid must come from divorced parents. No. I've read a lot of books and I've studied a lot of leaders. I've studied a lot of stuff. So once you know how a lot of countries, religions, people, cultures operate, you start to look at this thing from a macro perspective.
Yes.
Yeah. So you absolutely have people that are meant to be together and will be together forever. But you're also going to have people that are meant to be with 3 people for 15 years at a time. Because who the hell am I to tell someone that at 20 years old, you're supposed to just know? You were supposed to know. You two were just supposed to know. You were kids and you had no idea who you were, let alone how to serve that person, right? So, I'm okay with that. And the last thing I think I'll say on it is, actually it slipped my mind. Oh, here's actually the number one thing I say on all things for advice for relationships. Get this all the time. Nick, what do you think I should do with her or him? Oh, here's what you should do. Don't take, can I swear? I don't know if I can swear.
Yeah.
Okay, because I swear a lot. Don't take anyone's fucking advice. Nobody's. Because if there's one thing that does not have a blueprint, if there's one thing that there's no manual for, there's no business plan for, it's love. Love is the most irrational, like bonkers concept. And there's no one that can tell you what your path for love should be. I've been in love with the picture perfect, Alabama Baptist, beauty queen, perfectionist, never wrong. Everything's always right. I've been in love and married to that. I've also been in love with a broken artist who's just in pain and just pouring art everywhere from her soul. And I've been in love with both, and both of it was real, right? So nobody can advise you on love. You just got to dial in to the man upstairs, whatever that means to you, and dial into your intuition and just go with your heart. And if your heart says stay, you stay. If it says go, you go. And that's my 2 cents. Don't ask me as my 2 cents. Stop asking me.
Perfect. Thank you. Before you go, two last questions. You can combine them. What books do you recommend? What movies do you recommend?
Okay, so books. I have a top 10 list, and I won't go in any order. But the number 1 is Coming Out of the Ice. And it's a book I heard, and there's obscure, you guys remember LimeWire, where you could download recordings? I downloaded this old Jim Rohn live audio. I'm listening to it in 2004. It's probably circa 89 or something. And he talks about this book called Coming Out of the Ice. And by the 3rd time I've listened to the recording, I'm like, fine, we'll go buy this book. I had to go to bookstores. So there's no Amazon yet. I'm going to bookstores looking for this. Doesn't exist. So I find out that it's not in print. You can only buy it used. So finally I find one copy, and this book is so unbelievable about the test of the human spirit. Victor Herman, Coming Out of the Ice, favorite book. But here's a couple other ones. The Talent Code, and these all impacted me at different times in my life and the path. Tipping Point, Good to Great. Culture Code, best book I've ever read on creating culture. For those of you guys that are building a team, culture is king, right? So the Culture Code was the best book I ever read on that. I like Why Leaders Eat Last. I like Category Kings. I like, I'll stop there. So those are, and by the way, obviously Think and Grow Rich had a massive impact on my life.
Got it. Thank you.
You're welcome. Movies. I'll just say my favorite movie. I don't know about recommend, but I recommend documentaries, right? It's like, might as well try to learn something. But my favorite movie of all time is, I wanted to say Coming Out of the Ice, Into the Wild. Into the Wild is my favorite movie of all time. And Inception is my second favorite movie.
Hey, there you go.
Yeah, my ex-girlfriend's like, you realize your 2 favorite movies are about escapism. I'm like, holy shit, maybe I'm just living vicariously through them, right? Because I'm so like just dialed in and focused that my 2 favorite movies are about like getting lost somewhere. So I don't know. What's your favorite movie?
Mine is Life is Beautiful. And Lord of the Rings, I also love. Good, and the first and second Matrix.
First Matrix for sure in my top 5. I used to do a training on that. The biggest one I did, there was 17,000 people there. And I did one for 10,000 people. I flew in dressed as Neo up in the sky.
Wow.
And it was on a pulley, and then they lowered me down. But no, this is a joke. This isn't like, I end with a joke here. So on the way out, I snap back on the pulley, I go back in the sky, and I'm floating through the sky, and everyone's like, we didn't think about the fact that I'm just going backwards to a wall and the back end of a convention center. So I'm headed straight to a wall, and it's just like the worst crescendo you could ever have. Like, here goes our hero exiting, and he's going straight to a wall. So the thing stops right in front of the wall, and then slowly just lowers me. I'm like, so there's now 9,000 people turned around looking at me going, like, okay, like we didn't think about landing me behind a curtain. We didn't think through this thing. So yeah.
That's
so
great.
Turns out I'm not Neo. So that's moral of the story.
Alex, any last words?
Now, my favorite movie is The Never-Ending Story.
Wow.
Really?
You've done some mushrooms, Alex. Alex has done some mushrooms.
There you
Reminds
go.
me of it's my childhood. Atreyu. And then as far as books, The Road Less Stupid that Mario turned me on to.
Okay.
By Keith Cunningham.
You've told me about this.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I haven't read it yet. Good call.
And then the other one is The Laws of Success, Napoleon Hill.
The real Think and Grow Rich version.
The real
one.
Blue Bible.
Well,
yep. Awesome. Thank you for being here.
Closing thoughts. Doesn't matter what industry you're in. Find your purpose. Stay in your purpose. Don't just trade revenue for joy or results for joy. There's a way to do both. Have fun, or you're not doing it right. There's always going to be moments of pain and moments of fear and moments of failure. Don't let those turn into hours or days, or for God's sake, don't let that turn into a year. And guys, I love what you're doing. I love the audience that you're doing it for. The real estate world is such a critical component of our economy and the decision that we make and what happens for people's lives and their greatest purchases. So thank you to everyone out there that makes dreams come true. And thank you to you, gentlemen, for having me on.
Thank you, Nick.
Thank you.